What would you do if your sister was about to marry your mother's biggest secret? I didn't plan to ruin the wedding, but when I found out who the groom really was, walking away wasn't an option. They called me jealous. A liar. Then I played the video. If you think your family has drama, wait till you hear mine. I hadn't been back to Savannah in 3 years, not since the last Thanksgiving ended with my father yelling, my mother crying, and me slipping out the back door before dessert. So when Mom called to say, "Sierra's getting married, you need to come home," I knew something was off. My mother never asked. She ordered. But this time her voice was soft. Almost pleading. That scared me more than her usual sharpness ever did. I booked the ticket, packed a single bag and flew in the night before the rehearsal dinner. The air in Savannah wrapped around me like wet cotton, thick, humid, familiar in all the wrong ways. As I rode through the city in the back of a lift, my stomach twisted at every familiar street name. Magnolia Drive. Bellamy Lane. My childhood was paved into these roads and none of it felt like home. The driver slowed in front of my parents' house. Still the same oversized colonial with white columns and black shutters, like something pulled from a Southern Living magazine. People buzzed around the front yard. Florists, rental trucks, decorators. The house looked like it was preparing for royalty. It always did when it came to Sierra. I stepped out, dragging my suitcase up the walkway. The front door opened before I could knock. "There you are," Mom said. She wore a silk robe and heels at 10 a.m., her hair perfectly pinned. "You're late." "I landed early," I said. "Well then you're late coming here." She leaned in for an air kiss, barely grazing my cheek. "We've got a full schedule today. Farrah needs you. Oh, and wear something neutral. Blush tones only. You'll clash otherwise." "No, how are you? No, we've missed you." "Just orders." The inside of the house smelled like lemon polish and nerves. Staff moved through the halls like ghosts. Everything looked polished. Perfect. I walked past the study. Dad sat in his usual armchair, pretending to read the paper while watching the news on mute. He didn't look up. "Hi, Dad." He grunted. Turned a page. Upstairs, my old bedroom was frozen in time. The same lavender walls. The same bookshelf with dusty trophies from mathletes and debate club. On the desk sat an unopened envelope. My college diploma. I'd mailed it home 3 years ago. They hadn't even bothered to open it. I sat on the bed and stared at the past like it was a stranger. Then came the knock. Sierra didn't wait for permission. He never had. "Evie." Oh my God, finally. She looked like a photoshopped bridal ad. Tan-toned, glowing. Wrapped in white satin, smelling like expensive vanilla. "Hi," I said. "I need a huge favor," she chirped, plopping onto the bed like we were still teenagers. "Beau's groomsmen gifts got sent to the wrong address. Mom said you'd be free to go grab them." Of course she did. Sierra handed me a card with an address downtown. "They're monogrammed whiskey decanters, so don't drop them. And try to hurry. We need you back for the cake tasting." I took the card. Said nothing. He paused at the door. "Oh, and maybe try some concealer? You look a little tired." And then she was gone. I stared at the door, then at the diploma on the desk. This weekend, I promised myself, would be the last time they ever ignored who I really was. Downtown Savannah shimmered with late summer heat as I walked along the cobblestone sidewalk. Card in hand, destination in sight. The boutique Beau had chosen for his groomsmen gifts looked like it belonged in a lifestyle magazine. White marble counters, curated lighting, minimalist shelves with overpriced decanters and engraved tumblers. I gave the clerk the order number, watched her vanish into the back room, and did what I always did when something felt off. I started digging. Beau Whitmore. On paper he was perfect. Tech startup founder. Raised in Atlanta. Graduated from Duke. Founded Green Aura, a sustainable packaging company now worth millions. At least that's what his LinkedIn said. But the name itched at me. I couldn't place it, but it tugged like a loose thread I couldn't ignore. I sat on a bench outside while waiting, opened my laptop and did what my job had trained me to do: verify, search, cross-check. I ran his name through open databases, then tax filings, then social media histories. A few inconsistencies popped up. Graduated from Duke in 2014, but no mention in the alumni registry. A photo tagged in Austin 2 years ago with a different last name, Ellis. Curious now, I pivoted. Jonathan Ellis was the name in that photo. He looked younger, leaner, less polished. But it was him. Same eyes. Same scar above his right brow. I searched harder. Jonathan Ellis, born January 7, 1990, Savannah Memorial Hospital. Birth mother, Margaret N. Clark. I froze. Margaret Clark. My mother. The air around me turned to static. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, trembling. It couldn't be. It didn't make sense. My mother had never mentioned another child. Never hinted at it. But there it was in state records as clear as sunlight. Bo wasn't just a fraud. He was her son, which made him my half-brother. And Sierra's. The clerk returned with a smile, holding a sleek box of glass decanters. I took them numbly, muttered thanks, and walked the long way back, trying to feel my legs again. Back at the house, I went straight to my childhood room, shut the door, locked it, and sat on the floor. My breathing was shallow. I didn't know what was worse. The idea that my mother had hidden this for over 30 years, or that Sierra was days away from marrying her own blood. I had to know if it was true. That evening after dinner, I waited for the right moment. Mom was in the kitchen, swirling her wine, staring blankly at nothing. I walked in, closed the door behind me. "Who is Jonathan Ellis?" I asked. The glass stopped midair. Her face drained. She turned slowly. "Where did you hear that name?" "I saw the records," I said. "He was born here. In Savannah." His mother was Margaret Clark. Her eyes darted to the doorway, then back to me. "I was 18, she said. "I had just finished high school. He wasn't planned. My parents sent me to stay with my aunt in South Carolina. They made me give him up the day he was born. I never saw him. Never held him. And now he's here," I said. "About to marry your daughter." She sat down heavily at the kitchen table. Her shoulders trembled. I didn't recognize him at first. But then little things. His eyes. His smile. I just knew. But he didn't recognize me. And I didn't know how to tell him. Or Sierra. "You were going to let them get married." Her hands shook. What was I supposed to do, Evelyn? Ruin everything? Blow up her future? My husband doesn't know. No one knows. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "They're siblings, Mom." "Half-siblings," she said too quickly, and I flinched. "That doesn't make it better." I thought maybe it wouldn't matter if he never knew. If no one ever said anything. "But I know," I said. "And now you do too." We sat in silence, the hum of the refrigerator the only sound between us. Her eyes pleaded. Mine hardened. "You have to tell them," I said. "I can't." "Then I will." She stood abruptly, voice rising. "Evelyn, if you say a word." "What?" I snapped. "You'll cut me out?" "Ignore me harder." She stared at me, stunned. I walked out before she could reply. Upstairs I paced for hours. My mind flipped through scenarios like flashcards. Should I tell Sierra first? Should I confront Bo? Should I call off the wedding myself? Every path led to chaos. But silence led to something worse. I waited until morning. And then I went to see Bo. He was alone on the patio of the guest house, sipping black coffee and scrolling through his phone. I walked up quietly and sat across from him. He looked up, surprised. "Hey, Evelyn, right? You know why I'm here." He blinked. Set his mug down. "No idea." I pulled out my phone. "Open the records." "Your name isn't Bo Whitmore," I said. "It's Jonathan Ellis. Born January 7, 1990. Savannah Memorial. Mother's name, Margaret Clark." His face went pale. He kept going. "That's my mother. Which makes you her son. My half-brother. Sierra's too." He didn't say anything. "Did you know?" I asked. He exhaled slowly. "Not until recently. A couple months ago your mom pulled me aside. Said she had something to tell me. I thought she was crazy. Then I looked into it." "And you still plan to marry her?" "I didn't know what else to do," he said. "I didn't grow up with you. I didn't feel anything wrong. I loved her. I still do." "You don't get to love her like that," I said. "Not anymore." He looked away. "Are you going to tell her?" "If you don't," I said, "I will. You've got until tomorrow." He nodded slowly. As I walked away, he called out, "Evie." I turned. "I'm sorry." I didn't answer. I just kept walking. The morning of the wedding was too quiet. Not peaceful, unnaturally quiet like the air before a thunderstorm. Everyone in the house moved a little too fast, smiled a little too hard, laughed just a little too loud. My mother barely looked at me. My father barked orders at the wedding planner like a general under siege. And Sierra? She floated. Glowing in white satin, hair pinned in soft waves, makeup flawless, already imagining herself walking into forever. I watched her twirl in front of the mirror and felt the ache behind my ribs twist tighter. Bo hadn't said anything since our conversation. He hadn't told Sierra. I knew it. I could see it in the way he still held her hand, still kissed her temple, still played the part of the perfect fiancé. Either he thought I wouldn't go through with it or he was hoping he could outrun the truth. The ceremony was set up in the backyard beneath the old oak tree. Rows of white chairs, an arch wrapped in roses and eucalyptus, a string quartet playing softly as guests arrived in pastel linen and wide-brimmed hats. It looked like a scene from a bridal magazine. No one suspected the bomb ticking beneath the surface. I sat near the front, hands clasped, phone tucked inside my clutch. On the screen were the birth records, the family tree, the scanned letter my mother had written in college admitting the pregnancy. I didn't want to use any of it. I prayed I wouldn't have to. But he hadn't backed out. And now it was too late to wait. The music changed. Everyone stood. Sierra stepped into view at the top of the garden steps, arm hooked through my father's. Her dress sparkled in the afternoon sun, veil trailing like a ribbon of cloud behind her. She looked happy, completely, utterly unaware. Bo stood beneath the arch, flanked by groomsmen, his smile frozen in place. His eyes met mine briefly and something in them flinched. The ceremony began. The officiant welcomed everyone, told a joke about southern heat and burning love. Laughter echoed. The crowd settled. Vows were moments away. Then came the line. If anyone here has reason why these two should not be joined in marriage, speak now or forever hold your peace. I stood. Gasps followed, sharp and immediate. A few people turned to stare. The officiant blinked, unsure what to do. My father stiffened. My mother looked like she'd stopped breathing. Sierra turned, confusion clouding her face. "Evie," she said. "What are you doing?" I stepped forward slowly, careful not to trip on the uneven grass. "I'm sorry, but I can't let this happen." "Sit down," my father hissed through clenched teeth. "No," I said, voice steady. "Not this time." I turned to the crowd. "This man, Bo Whitmore, is not who he says he is. His real name is Jonathan Ellis. He was born here in Savannah in 1990. His birth mother was Margaret Clark." The name hung in the air like a thunderclap. I turned to Sierra. Her face was pale. Her hands trembled at her sides. "Sierra, he's Mom's son. She had him when she was 18 and gave him up. He's our half-brother." The silence that followed was suffocating. Then Sierra whispered, "You're lying." But her voice broke halfway through. My mother let out a sob, collapsing into her seat. My father turned to her, stunned. "What is she talking about?" he barked. Mom couldn't answer. Bo stepped forward. "It's true." Gasps again. Someone dropped a champagne flute. "I didn't know when I met Sierra," Bo said, looking only at her. "But I found out months ago. I should have told you. I was scared." "You were going to marry me," Sierra said, backing away. "You were going to let me marry my own brother. I thought I could protect you from it," he said. "That maybe it didn't matter because we didn't grow up together." Sierra screamed. "It matters." She ripped the veil from her head, threw it to the ground and turned to my mother. "And you let this happen." Mom wept, head in her hands. "I thought I could stop it before the wedding. I thought he wouldn't go through with it." "You all thought wrong," Sierra said. Then she looked at me. "Why did you wait until now?" "Because I gave him a chance to walk away," I said. "And he didn't." But looked like a ghost. He didn't argue. Didn't move. "I need to go," Sierra whispered, and she bolted down the aisle, shoes in her hands, dress flying behind her. The ceremony collapsed. Guests whispered, grabbed their purses, walked quickly toward the gates. My father demanded answers. My mother couldn't speak. The string quartet stopped playing. Bo stood alone beneath the arch, surrounded by flowers and fallout. Me? I just walked away. The house was silent the next morning. No more florists or string quartets, no scent of peonies or sound of laughter. Just coffee left cold on the kitchen counter and a veil hanging from a doorknob like some ghost of what almost was. I stood in the hallway with my bag packed, ready to leave before anyone else woke up. But my mother was already in the kitchen, staring into a cup she hadn't touched. She didn't look up when I entered. Her voice was hoarse. "Your father spent the night at the hotel." I nodded. "Sierra. Won't talk to me. Blocked my number. Took off with her friend Jenna last night. Said she's going to stay in Charleston." I sat across from her, unsure what to say. For the first time in my life she looked small. Not sharp or commanding. Just a woman who had built her life on silence and was now buried under the rubble of it. "I should have told the truth," she whispered. "A long time ago." "Yeah," I said. "You should have." She nodded like she agreed, but that didn't make it hurt any less. I didn't think it would catch up to me. I thought I could outrun it like it never happened. "You gave him away," I said. "But you didn't bury him. He's still real. Still alive." "I know," she said, and for once I believed her. "I'll fix it." "Some things you can't fix," I said. "You just live with them." She reached for my hand and I let her touch it for a second before pulling away. I wasn't ready to forgive her. I didn't know if I ever would be. Outside the sky was gray. My ride to the airport pulled up and I stood, slinging my bag over my shoulder. "You know," she said softly as I reached the door, "I always thought you were the strong one." I didn't answer. I just left. Back in Boston, my apartment was quiet, but the silence felt different. Not heavy. Not haunted. Just mine. I lit a candle, unpacked my suitcase, and threw away the last of the wedding invitations I had tucked in a drawer for no good reason. Then I sat down and opened my laptop. For the next week I barely slept. Not because of nightmares, but because I had an idea. A plan. A way to make sense of the wreckage. I built a website. Not flashy. Just clean and honest. A platform for people to share the stories their families tried to erase. Stories of adoption, of secrets, of silenced pain. I called it Bloodlines. Within a month, it had over 10,000 subscribers. Sierra didn't reach out right away, but I knew she was watching. I could see the location tags on the site analytics. Boston. Every few days she'd click through 3 or 4 articles. One day she stayed for over an hour. Then the email came. No subject line. Just 2 sentences. "I'm not ready to talk. But I know you saved me." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I wrote back. "When you're ready, I'll be here." Bo disappeared from the public eye. His company's investors pulled out. Green Aura folded within weeks. Rumors of fraud, falsified credentials, and insider deception swirled. I didn't celebrate. I didn't post. I just watched the illusion dissolve. My father filed for separation. He never said a word to me about the wedding. But he sent me a Christmas card that year. For the first time in my life he signed it with my name. Just my name. Evie. As for my mother, she started therapy. She emailed me once, a long message about her childhood, about shame, about silence. She said she was trying to become someone better, even if she was late to the game. I didn't reply. But I didn't delete it either. 6 months later, Sierra knocked on my apartment door. No makeup. No cameras. Just her in a worn hoodie. We sat on the couch and talked for hours. About him. About her. About me. She said she felt like a ghost, like her entire identity had been built on something that was never real. I told her that was how I'd felt for most of my life. We cried. Then we laughed. Then we cried again. When she left, I felt something settle inside me. Not peace. Not closure. But something close. A beginning. A few weeks after that, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. The return address said, J. Ellis. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "I'm sorry. For all of it. I'm trying to learn what love really is. Not the kind you fake. The kind you build. I don't expect forgiveness. But I'm grateful you stopped me. Jonathan." I placed the letter in a drawer. Not to forget. But to remember. Sometimes families are built on lies. Sometimes they survive them. Sometimes they don't. But the truth? The truth always finds a way out. And sometimes it starts with someone finally refusing to stay quiet. 3 weeks after Sierra left my apartment, I found myself standing outside the Clark family home again. The same white columns. The same wrought iron gate. But it didn't feel like it used to, not like a fortress I was locked out of or a museum of someone else's memories. It felt like a story that had already ended. But I wasn't there for nostalgia. I was there to clean out the attic. My parents had sold the house. Downsized. Apparently, the idea of a fresh start had gained traction. I didn't ask for details. But Mom had called me. Said there were boxes with my name on them that she didn't want to throw out. I almost ignored the call. Almost. But curiosity is a quiet tug and sometimes it wins. The attic hadn't changed. Still smelled like dust and old linens. I climbed the narrow stairs and flicked on the light. My boxes were stacked in the far corner. High school yearbooks, debate trophies, a few dusty notebooks. But there was another box I didn't recognize. Plain, unmarked, sealed with yellowing tape. I opened it slowly. Inside were letters. Dozens of them. All addressed to Margaret Clark. All from the same sender. Gee, my stomach flipped. They weren't from Jonathan. They were about him. From the agency. From the hospital. From the social worker. Updates on his first year. His health. His placement. One letter included a photo. A grainy baby picture of a boy with wide eyes and a tuft of dark hair. On the back, in faint pencil, my mother had written one word. Sorry. I sat on the attic floor and read until my eyes burned. Each letter felt like a brick in a wall I never knew existed. She hadn't just given him up and moved on. She had watched from the shadows year after year, kept every scrap of proof that he existed, and then buried it, along with the parts of herself she thought no one would accept. I should have felt angry again. Betrayed. But instead I just felt tired. The kind of tired that doesn't come from lack of sleep, but from holding too much for too long. Downstairs, the house echoed with emptiness. No voices. No piano. No arguments. Just the sound of my own shoes on hardwood. I placed the box of my things in the trunk and paused at the door one last time. Then I left. In Boston, life moved on. Bloodlines grew into something bigger than I ever expected. People from across the country wrote in. Stories of lost siblings, unknown parents, late-night confessions whispered through locked bathroom doors. I hosted webinars, interviews, launched a podcast. What started as a way to process my own pain had become a network of truth-tellers, a digital map of human resilience. For the first time, I felt like what I built mattered. Not to impress anyone, not to be seen, but because it helped someone else find their voice. Sierra and I stayed in touch. Tentatively at first. A text every few days. A call once a week. Sometimes we talked about normal things. Movies, music, how much we both hated boxed wine. Sometimes we didn't talk at all. Just stayed on the line, breathing, knowing the other person was still there. 6 months after the wedding, she asked if I wanted to visit Charleston. I said yes. We walked along the pier. She wore no makeup, no filters, no poses. She told me she was in therapy. Said she was learning to separate real love from romantic delusion. She said she didn't hate Mom, but she didn't trust her yet either. I nodded. I understood. Bo, or Jonathan, never reached out again. His final letter was the end of that chapter. I didn't need more. I didn't want more. Some ghosts deserve to stay buried, once you've made peace with their shadow. One day I received a thin envelope in the mail. It was from a law firm. Inside was a document, a trust. Apparently, my mother had set aside a portion of her estate, not for redemption, not as apology, but as recognition. For Evelyn Clark, the note said. For telling the truth when I couldn't. I didn't know what to feel. Gratitude? Bitterness? Closure? Maybe all three. Maybe none. I filed the papers. Didn't cash anything. It was enough to know that, in the end, someone had written my name down and meant it. Years passed. I moved to a new apartment with more sunlight and less silence. I fell in love with someone who didn't flinch at complicated histories. We talked about starting a family. I told him everything. He didn't walk away. He stayed. One night, I stood on the balcony, a breeze brushing my face, and I thought of that day under the oak tree, when everything I thought I knew cracked open and spilled out for the world to see. I wasn't proud of the pain I caused, but I wasn't ashamed of it either. I did what I had to do. For Sierra. For the truth. For myself. And if I had to choose again, I'd still stand up. Even if my voice trembled. Even if no one clapped. Because sometimes the most radical thing a woman can do is stop pretending everything's fine.